So that's the state of play, and we are hoping to have a meeting with the property owner in the next few weeks, who seems very constructively engaged and is by and large doing a good job with the property. And I believe the idea is to defer this discussion of 250 Main Street to a future meeting, and we can certainly talk about that in the meeting, but the encouragement would be to not wax too terribly eloquent on camera.
And I get that. I get that. I totally understand it. All right.
Yeah. Thank you. Ready, man? Are we good on? No?
No.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
So I still don't understand. So we're not discussing this.
We're good. We'll just open the meeting. Good evening, everyone. Easton Historic Commission agenda. I know I like my glasses. February 26th, 2019. Review and approval of minutes from February 5th, 2019. Everybody had a chance to look?
Yep.
Okay. Need a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
I won less because I wasn't there.
Doesn't matter, you can still read the minutes and say they look good. I guess we should designate voters here, although we don't have any to vote on tonight.
I think we have a full complement, don't we?
Yeah.
So, no, you don't need to designate the alternates.
Okay. Ames Local Historic District 250 Main Certificate of Appropriate Application Continued Discussion. That certificate has not been issued, will not be issued yet. We hope to have a conversation with the property owner at some point to discuss the couple items that we discussed before, the patio doors and the pediment over the front door, two big items. Town office is aware that this was overlooked. Connery, in a discussion this morning, reassured me this would never happen again. That things will be implemented to make sure that when a building permit is applied in the local historic district, something's gonna pop up, whether it's a ding or something on the application itself, to indicate that the applicant must come to us prior to the issuance of a building permit. So that being said, any discussion?
Just a couple things.
Okay.
So is this something that's going to be drafted for our review
Yes.
within the next 30 days, or is this something that's just going to be dragged?
No, this will not be dragged. This will be, matter of fact, Connor asked if I was able to or willing to meet with him several times a month or whatever. Whenever something like this comes up, his door is open. But in this situation, he's going to get this done quickly, get back to us, and I hope by next meeting will be something for us to look at and vote on, ratify.
So it'll be in a building request for either a demolition or in a historic district?
Well, it's again, anything in the historic district, it's gonna be done.
It's gonna be a software patch.
Yeah,
That's what they're gonna do. They're gonna amend the software, permanent software. That's what's gonna happen.
yeah.
Well, what about not just in the historical district, but what about just in general also?
Well, that's two different animals.
It's two different animals, but have we been neglected? Have we been...
Not that I'm aware of, but you know what? That's not a bad thing to ask if we can
Why
get
don't we just-
75 years
Well,
old.
I had a conversation with Connor called. We were meeting on some planning board stuff, and so I brought up some planning board things. So I sent him a letter. Tim and I talked about it, and I sent Connor a list of 8 things, including demo delay, which is a little tougher. Because how do you figure out which properties are over 75 years old, but things that would be nice in the future to include in software patches. But this is the one, he's focusing on this one now, I understand.
They can reference the assessors list. Ed Hans just did it for us. Ed created a list of 64 houses for the survey to take a look at, and he did it through the assessors department. because they have the years the houses were built on there, or at least in the ballpark. So that should be automatic. Maybe we'll make it, well, yeah, make a note of it.
I think the default is 1900 and anything older, so anything older than 1900 was built in 1900, I think is the default.
Okay,
I believe the way the information is gathered is there would be a code on the assessor's card for a property, say in the local historic district, and then that code would be how that information gets into the permitting software.
okay. I don't know how it's gonna happen, but that's not my thing. We'll make sure it happens. That's the bottom line, is it's,
And we will be able to review that also?
yes, yeah, that's a must, yeah, without a doubt.
Getting back to my thoughts about what does the commission feel about having something in our minutes in regards to this was not an oversight or an issue by this commission, or am I causing?
It's out.
I think it's in the minutes there, big guy.
Yeah, you just said it.
I mean, I strongly feel that something should be put into the minutes, because I can just see 2-3 years down the road an applicant coming forward, and what are we gonna do? Shift it to another department or whatever, and it just makes us look bad. I think it needs to be clear that this had nothing to do with an oversight or an issue on our part. Just my feelings.
Well, it's on the record. I mean, that's it. That's it. I think we're all in agreement that it was not us that did it, and,
So as long as, to me personally, as long as that's recorded.
And that was also listed the last meeting also. It was known that we were never notified
right,
as a
Right.
commission.
and,
So we can draw back to that,
and hopefully it's rectified and,
and then it'll be rectified, and that there was obviously nothing malicious or anything like that. It was just a mistake and an oversight, and so be it.
and that's,
So not about the specifics, right? Because we can't issue a certificate because there's no process. So,
yeah, true, yeah.
As I understand, so when we were here last time, we were talking about the windows, right?
Yes.
And they seemed, simulated divided light seemed to be
Yep.
what we would want.
Yep.
The doors, that was the big one, that they're not arched, but those are custom-made doors, and they're probably $80,000 worth of doors, and
How much?
probably 80,000. Those are expensive. Very.
To do that, yeah.
Those are because there's 6 or 7.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the ones that are being put in now.
No, I'm talking about the ones that
The
suit.
ones that have been ordered.
So ones were ordered.
Oh,
They
yes.
ordered. They didn't understand. They didn't realize they were in a district, so they just ordered regular square top doors, but they're custom made, and they're
Is
so.
then-
If I could just finish. But then there was talk about a front pediment, and I think, and you were gonna, I know the builder was here and assured us all the trim was going to,
Yes,
be
that's
the same.
matched.
So, of course, the permit application really just had a couple of really simple, basic, just pictures and kind of Photoshop sketch. So, maybe you should send, maybe a letter from you or the department, whatever, should be sent, kind of summarizing that stuff, right? And then saying that any further, if things change, if there's any further work there, we would expect them to amend their permit and come in and then go through the appropriate process. I don't anticipate that based on the
No,
discussion.
I
obviously,
saw,
but that seems to be a way to clean it up.
I went over there yesterday. The window trim package is nice. It's got the heavy colonial sills. Nice pediment with trim on it, just like what was there. Some of the fascias have been replaced, and rakes are the original dimensions with the original moldings dimensions, whatever are on there. So it's all going back as is, as was. So that part's nice about it. That's happening.
Are the doors in that bad a shape? I haven't seen them up close.
Well, what they've done in that room is it's on its own zone of heat and air.
Yeah.
So you don't want to do. I assume what the goal is insulated glass. I'm assuming that's what this new door will give them.
Know what I'm saying? The existing doors now.
Right. Are they in bad shape? Yeah, there's been a lot of hammering on them already. The frame of that isn't really structurally enough to hold those doors. But anything can be repaired, I guess. So, anything else, anybody?
Just generally, rather than specifically, it seems to me that, again, from my own education, the burden is generally on the homeowner to make sure that they don't run afoul of the commission. Now, and the reason I'm asking this is because anytime somebody, says software patch, I laugh, which is what I did. So,
So you didn't think it was fun?
I thought it was funny. The punishment is to the homeowner, right? If the commission exercises cease and desist, any of this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and so the burden, I think, would be on the homeowner
Initially?
to know whether or not.
Well,
See,
Yeah,
I
right.
wouldn't be too sure on that. I would look at it as you could be ignorant to the fact that, hey, listen, I bought an old home and people aren't as historically significantly minded like we are and have no clue. So
So maybe what
the district though. That's,
Right, so
that
well,
was
this
my
is-
here's what we need to write. So when we formed this district 3 or 4 years ago, and I asked Tim about this too, and I wanted to bring this up tonight. At the time, part of what we've talked about, sometimes we need to sort of market this and build awareness. So I don't know if it was ever done. We talked about it, but that question I guess for you two, but it would seem to me wise, we should come up with a letter of explanation, a letter of introduction, whatever, to all of the property owners in the local historic district, explaining what the district is, why it is, the benefits of it, and some of the responsibilities, and ownership changes. Here's a perfect example. When we expanded the district, we had conversations with David Ames about putting his house in the district, Ed and I, and so he was aware of it. But then it sold to someone with the same last name but a different person, and had no idea a local historic district existed. And probably potentially not the only other property that's changed hands in the 3 or 4 years. So maybe it almost needs to be an annual thing that we do, just an update. Making it. We can put a little blurb about it too, or something.
we could also keep an eye on transactions, real estate transactions. That'd be the easy way to do it.
Well, that was gonna be my question, is that if you are selling a house or you're purchasing a house, is this not something that should be, if I'm buying a house and I think this is awesome, I can change everything, and then all of a sudden I discover I cannot change a thing on the outside.
Buyer beware.
Yeah, well, I mean, how are you supposed to, if it's not included in something, how is it, it
I
needs
don't
to
think,
be.
I sort of feel like it's the owner's responsibility.
Well, the
think
owner,
to
the
do-
seller or the buyer?
It is because it
Either.
doesn't follow the
Yeah.
deed in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
That's
Look,
the right.
I
That's
mean,
the
somewhere-
big
somewhere
part.
there needs to be a
it's the
notification,
person
because
at
if I
the
discovered
moment
that,
of
I'd be like,
doing the
no.
work, whoever owns it at the time of doing the work. All of this, to me, all the rest of this is just
But that's-
noise.
I-
Who at the moment owns it and makes the decision ignorance is no excuse.
I don't disagree. I think I said that at the last
The
meeting.
only concern I have is not to throw blame, as we said we don't wanna do. The contractor was a resident. He knew he was in Easton Historic District. Shouldn't he have had a conversation with the owner a little more? Or is it, in this new request that's being made, is it gonna go out to contractors as well? That, hey, you guys need to do this before anything,
Well,
when you submit your application?
we've nipped it in the bud here now.
Right.
Even if he has his grand design, he and the owner, and then they go to file for the permit, oops.
Okay.
But I still feel, and everybody's making valid points.
Right.
But I'll say, I think part of the responsibility falls on this board and on this department, in that, we're in a bubble. There's 200 or 300 people that volunteer on boards in Easton, and even a small percentage of that. We're the historically minded folks right here. I bet you if you went in and polled all the members of the Easton Historical Society, I bet you all of them don't even know we have a local historic district, or maybe they do, but they don't know what it is. We have so many districts in town. So I think we need to be proactive with this, and I think we can use it to our advantage. First, not just to notify, we don't wanna sell like it's a punishment that you just bought this house and that's it, but the benefits of it. And, sort of what you do every year with your awards and the photos and, maybe we can tell a little story if, there's a good story to tell about a house that was done in the district or something. And just as a way, someone, just not every year we're just saying, don't forget you're in the district, and don't change a thing.
Yeah, you could start a little local district news.
But then that starts to build awareness of, because you want real estate brokers to know about it, and you like some contractors to know about it, and eventually, I mean, our software and I'm not picking on Easton, but the softwares that municipalities use are pretty.
They need some patches.
They're in the prehistoric age, but Mike, in this day and age, I mean, think of the technology we all have in our pocket. In this day and age, shouldn't it be possible that, okay, anytime a property sells, okay, ping, anytime a building permit goes, so it's on a scenic road, or it's in a local historic district, or it's subject to architectural review because of this. It looks like it might be over 75 years old. It may be subject to, all of these things. We should be able to use technology to our advantage. And I know some tied a little bit because things move slow municipally and contracts and all that, and the software just, it's pretty basic. But hopefully, going forward, lots more than just this issue can be streamlined and fixed. But in the meantime, I think we need to sell ourselves, sell the district.
Is there a deed, an indication on the deed that there's a?
No, because there's no mechanism to do that.
Yeah.
But again, property transfers do, maybe. Or worst case, every year, because what you want, this was a worst case scenario because it was found a year after building permit went out. What you wanted to do. Let's say, okay, someone just brought up an example. Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner come in, they want to do something, have no idea about this district. Well, we file for the permit, and they're like, no, you have to go through. Well, we had no idea. Well, now they could still be mad. So we need to do a better job because it's only 41 buildings in the district, and half of those are pretty large buildings that the gatehouse and Oaks Ames things that are
looking to expand it.
So for the 18, I think it was, or some homes in there.
And they're all
we should probably try to do more proactive.
So at my library, when you come in and you move to town and you get a new library card, one of the first things we got together is a welcome to the library. And so we have a packet we hand people. Why can't we just do something?
Yeah.
If there's a real estate transaction, welcome to your local historical district. This is basically what you've bought into, or
Sure.
this is what you have. I mean, it can just be as simple as a brochure. Just something that really quickly outlines what is.
Or we can give them their rules and regulations and.
Brochure
But how do we
nice.
hook on to that transaction?
Yeah.
Where in this building can they hook onto this transaction? There's probably there must be a place, right?
What about, newspapers, social media? I mean, years ago, we came up with the idea, and it just kind of fizzled out, and it was called, Did You Know, Historically Speaking?
You used to write that in the journal, didn't you?
I did,
Yeah.
but the idea was to have a member, so it didn't get overwhelming for one member. Each month, one member would write this article. Again, did you know, historically speaking? And the journal was very receptive to it, and people liked it, but it just, to be honest with you, I just didn't keep up with it myself, and so if we each took it, I don't know if that's another avenue, and focus on not just the journal, but patch, whatever.
Or online. Let's get into the
That's what I'm
21st
saying.
century.
Yeah.
And there's a trouble spot because this town has a policy, as most do. They don't want these boards to have their own social media, which for good reasons, but at the same time, it's tough because that's how we communicate now.
Was there any
It
chance
would
of
be-
working with the Realtor Association, the National Realtor Association? That somehow or other, they may know something that can be put into these places. Because I'm sure we're not the first ones to run into this.
No.
And I'm thinking if we can get in touch with somebody from the National Realtors Association, They may be able to tell us what we can do. They may be, maybe not, but they may be able to help us so we can
Sure.
inform people
Yeah,
when things get sold.
Well, banker and tradesmen used to track all transactions. I don't know if that's still true.
Still do.
Yeah,
Mm.
so.
Well, there must be something, you know, I wonder if we could find out, Wayne, like, there must be some place in this building that real estate transactions in this town
The
It
assessors,
seems like it would be the
pop up.
assessor's office.
Yeah,
You would
because-
think, you know,
yeah,
so,
that's-
You know,
so
the
yeah,
tax
that
dollar-
should be something at some point
yeah.
we could,
But then,
you know,
you've
maybe
gotta
we
get
could
the
enter
person
in
to
all
come
the
in.
addresses, I mean, there must,
Yeah,
you know,
just-
or hopefully in the future at least, if we could, you know.
You've gotta get them to come in here and look for that. You
If
wanna
you-
get it, based on what you're asking, you wanna get it to them before they get to that step.
If you just have a monthly, if the assessor's office has it, and you have something that just even if it's spreadsheets, this is what's sold, this is what we're tracking, boom, we have a match.
Yeah.
I mean, just do like some kind of, like a spreadsheet with conditional formatting or something that would pull it each time. You'd have to have someone run it each month. I mean, you'd be able to keep up with it month to month or something. You'd eliminate patches.
And I think if we, but he likes patches. I, you know, and to John's point about, you know, the stories and what I was saying, you know, because at the same time, I think it's important to try to get the message out to the property owners that this is a positive and why we did it, so that then, as they are selling their property, you know, I think you could see instead of people looking at it as a negative, like, oh, we lose control of our house, or certain things from us, it's, oh, hey, you know, we're in a local historic district, and boy, they've done some great things, and that actually adds to the value of our house.
right.
And yada yada, so that, then there's just a natural occurrence, so again, hopefully that helps eliminate, you know, surprises for the new owners. That's a big watch.
So I'm gonna leave.
So what's the conclusion?
I think we pretty much,
I think we
we more
obviously,
or less,
I think we've obviously nipped in the bud that this won't happen again, and that we will see a draft from the town within the next month or two, the latest.
I would think, what's all Connor needs to know is that the software's been implemented, right? Isn't that more or less the
I
bottom
think
line
maybe
of it?
the through line would be you and I circle back with Connor and figure out what is the timeline for
Alright,
this.
okay. All right.
And then the second thing would be, I think everybody's had we've had a great discussion on these thoughts about marketing to our community.
I wonder if we could do it through the Historic Society. They send out a monthly newsletter.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know if that
And
would
it has to
work.
be-
That'd
it's
be
our
mixed.
responsibility, we
Exactly.
are the regulatory board, it has to be.
I wouldn't want, we
Our
get
responsibility.
mixed up as it is.
Right.
I don't think that would be a good idea, but, they send out a newsletter to just their members though.
That's what I was
Yeah.
just gonna say, yeah, that would be the only thing.
Which indicates the only people that care.
Right. That would be our only downfall.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can get something posted in the library in the,
Hey Wayne, is it possible to find out from town council where the town thinks the burden of responsibility resides? I mean, I would find it surprising that the answer would be with the software. Sure. I mean, I think that, because I personally feel like having an opinion about that would be valuable to how this commission approaches these things. And partly it's because once the property is sold, the cows are out of the barn. So if somebody buys the property expecting to do something and discovers through some nice letter from this commission that they aren't gonna be able to do what they wanna do, I would like to know that the town thinks the burden remains with that person to follow the regulations that exist rather than,
But
it be.
But how do you do that when clearly someone bought that house and didn't?
Ignorance is no excuse. I mean,
But I'm sure this has been approved by the legislature, the process that we followed to create this local historic district. So I'm sure if you went to the MHC site, under the legal part, it has to be, you can't
I
create.
just think it would be very useful at
legislation
this
without that.
point to know.
It is the burden of the property owner, yes.
And I think to me, that's very important in how we exercise in these situations,
Well,
how the
let's,
board behaves.
how about if,
That's all.
if we contact all the property owners in the historic district with this letter and advising them that if you so choose to sell the house, please be sure to advise the realtor / future buyer, whatever, that you
Please.
are in a historic district.
And please, real estate agent, narrow your field of buyers by
Yeah, then,
conveying this information that you have no obligation except for your.
It's a good start because there's only 40
and
properties.
there's multiple owners.
I just want to know where the foundation is here, and it sounds like the foundation is clear. That's all I want to know.
Right, right.
So the rest of it's great, but I think if that's where if that's where it sits, that's where it sits.
So
Yes.
would the Massachusetts, would like Chris Kelly and the Massachusetts Historical Society, would they have something, Historical Commission, would they have something already prepared in terms of marketing materials?
With, absolutely
Already
with.
stuff that we could send,
Yeah,
like just
good-
basically
good,
tape,
They do.
yeah, that we could just send out and and just send it to everybody and see what the next step
Yeah,
would
they
be.
have a
Yeah.
double-sided
Yeah, they
one
had, Chris,
page.
he passed out something the last
Yeah.
time.
Which we could include with a mailer.
Yeah.
And we could resend out the survey, you know?
Yeah, I think the property survey could go back out with.
Yeah, I mean, someone we know haven't changed, so we don't necessarily have to send it to Oaks Ames or
No,
Shovel
correct.
Works, but
Yeah.
especially for the houses, you
Yeah,
know,
I
just
think, yeah,
Well, and for the houses too, it seems like every year, every 2 years, just resend it, and even if it's
Yeah.
super
I
redundant.
agree.
I mean, I think if we
It's a
come up with,
reminder.
like, almost do it as a newsletter, and then slip in this other stuff too, you know, we
Yeah.
could go, instead of doing it monthly, we can do, do it once a year, and then at least we're, you know, trying to, cutting down the potential for misses, right?
Confusion.
For last minute, yeah, I mean, well, because I do, you know, the
There's a reason to
responsibility,
have this
right,
thing.
the responsibility falls on the property owner, but, or the legal, but we're the ones who created the district, we went out and sold it to the town.
For a
and so on.
reason.
Right, so, but I
To
don't
protect
think
the
our
house.
job stopped there, you know, I think we need to, in the shows, we need to keep, you know, we need to keep building,
Awareness.
consensus and awareness
Yeah.
for this, yeah.
All right, well, hopefully something good comes out of this whole thing,
Sure will.
is the bottom line. Any further discussion on this? Okay, thank you, everybody, thank you for your input. Survey inventory draft scope, continued discussion. Ed gave us a list of, I think, 64 houses. I looked at all but 3. I think because the 3 I was looking for don't exist anymore. So, I know one of them is now probably the parking lot for, what's the restaurant down southeast?
Oh, at the split?
The Forge, whatever. it's
Oh,
called.
Ford, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, there used to be a house there.
because I lived at 519, I was looking for 515, and I know 519 probably went with 515, I'm
Yeah,
not sure, so there's a
There
question.
were some structures there.
There's several that are new houses, there's several that are
What's the forge?
The Foundry.
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 No, not foundry, no. 138, 123.
Taylor owned.
No.
What?
Right next to
Liat
CVS in
Road?
Southeastern.
Oh,
Stone
Stone Forge.
Stone Forge.
Oh,
Oh, where Villa Rosa used to be?
Yeah,
Villa Rosa, haven't heard that.
Was there a house? Yeah, there was that little house right there, yeah.
there were a bunch of
It
houses.
was like 15 years ago.
No, there were a bunch of houses there.
Oh, that was the big Portuguese area.
Yeah, yeah.
Villa Rosa, wow.
So, the future of the survey is,
So, thank you for doing some ground truthing on that, and we've narrowed it down. There are 2 other big things. One is, excuse me, the cemeteries, and we have a local volunteer who may be taking on doing inventory forms for the relevant cemeteries. So, maybe.
That's a good
Tim
job.
is we had a conversation with him earlier, and he may or may not be interested in doing that. So we're gonna,
he's pretty computer capable, so I
Yeah.
think it's the Form B, is it, that has to be?
yeah.
Yeah, so,
That's great.
yeah, I think he's gonna take it up, it's Ferris Bliss. is
He's
gonna-
on the cemetery commission.
Cemetery commission, yeah,
Yeah.
he's gone crazy, so.
And he's doing some of the 18th century gravestone restoration projects, cleaning and restoration projects as well. So if he does that, then having a lot of cemeteries as part of this doesn't become as urgent. And then a big topic of conversation last meeting was the commission as volunteers doing the study report necessary for the local historic district project in the Hayward Pool area. Greg had brought up that the commission had done that in 2010-ish for the original local historic district downtown, and then it was expanded, I think, in 13 or something. It may be feasible if the commission wants to form a subgroup and take that on. I did some more research. We have a 1998 area form for Hayward Pool, so we're not as massively ignorant as I was worried we would be. So there's, I think, some pretty reliable, updated information on the properties there.
I'm sorry, where did that come from, Wayne?
Massachusetts Historical Commission.
I had asked Ed, I can actually look it up, probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, and he had sent me quite a bit of information on every one of those homes. See if I still have it, I hope. I do. Actually, he sent it to me a year ago on the potential local historic district. And so if we need to add anything to that or double check, or we have enough?
So, we have a 1998 area form with some good information on it. I printed out the Modern National Register nomination for Southeaston, the project around Central Street, which we're not moving forward with, but this is what a modern, contemporary, rather detailed one looks like. We also have the 1972 National Register nomination for Northeaston, so this is a rather poor one. And then you can go online, and we have the preliminary and the final study reports for the local historic district. So this is what, functionally, this is what you guys would be wanting to produce.
That was my first iPhone.
There you go.
That photo?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Look at that. So original. What name is the building?
The library.
So that's what they look like. So it looks like there may be enough information already for it to be feasible for commission volunteers to take this on as a project that is sort of led and done by the commission volunteers if the commission wants to do that. For planning or timelining it, which is not really a verb, if we're aiming for May 2020 town meeting, you have to have a meeting in advance of that.
Public meeting?
A public meeting with residents and so on. And then you have to get your study report to Massachusetts Historic Commission. So the draft study report should be submitted to MHC essentially Christmas this year, January of 2020 at the latest, to actually hit the May 2020 town meeting. So over the rest of the spring, summer, and fall, the group could put together the draft study report and a National Register nomination form based on information from 1998, which seems reasonably accurate and complete, as well as other information that volunteers have like it. So if that is of interest to people.
Yeah, I want to get it done. Anybody interested in?
I open my big mouth, so it's fun. I like it.
All right.
I'll do it.
All right.
I'll buy the coffee. Anybody else wants to help out?
So
All right, well-
we can back that out of the scope for consultants to do
Yeah,
this next
Yeah,
round,
yeah.
and commission volunteers will produce that. Okay.
A subcommittee is that limited to the number of members that can? Does it become a meeting?
No, we had because remember we had 3.
Right.
Well, because you can post a
Yeah,
meeting,
we had
but you can do a working group.
We had 3 and we got in trouble or something.
No, we just always posted when we were going to meet.
All right.
That many times. Or,
Okay.
but you can when you're working on a study, you can send information to each other. It's not open public.
Well,
meeting.
instead of subcommitteeing it, should we just say we're gonna meet X night and whoever wants to come and help?
You're the chair. You can do whatever.
No, I mean, but you know, as we did the last time, so
Yeah, I mean, what, I
It's,
I-
yeah,
I don't
it's,
know.
yeah, I'm not really looking to pigeonhole anybody into doing this, so we'll set some dates and just if whoever has a chance to come up and help out or whatever.
Yeah, maybe we could circulate dates on when folks would want to meet. That's not actually a commission meeting,
Right,
or could be a commission meeting, but just for that purpose.
right, right.
And, you know, start putting together a timeline and identifying tasks.
But I guess I'd just say too, for people to decide, maybe take a look, MHC, that, they have that guide, and it's excellent, and you walk straight through it, and take a look, it looks interesting. My only concern is if we formalize this too much, the meeting process, then, it gets too heavy, it gets too, I mean, if everybody here wants to do it, fine, we can do it here.
Well, that's what I mean.
What you really need to do is what did we do in the past? We look and say, okay, here's what we have to do, we'll break this out, you take this, I'll take this, you
Well,
take
yeah,
that.
so we'll do that.
And that, I just, sometimes it's quicker to work as a commando group than as trying to bring the whole.
No, I
Yeah.
agree, no, that's what I'm saying, I'm not saying, if somebody has date X off and wants to come up and, or take an assignment and just go do it and come back the next, piece of thing back together.
Just create a spreadsheet with a master list of tasks, a doodle poll, see who's available when, assign everybody a task and have them upload when necessary.
Yeah, you could pick something if you wanted to.
So efficient, look at that. So
I hear,
efficient.
So much.
I hear spreadsheet, my eyes glaze over, oh yeah, I'm not the guy creating that. Yeah, I need a software patch.
I'll happily create that
All right,
stuff for
cool.
you guys, and then I don't know about timelines and stuff, but I can definitely do create a poll if you guys figure out what you want to do when, and we can
Yeah.
set that up.
Okay.
I thought I heard glazed donut, and I was like, that sounds good.
That's
No,
our
I said
meeting, that's
glazed.
why we have the meeting.
I said glazed over, yeah, sorry.
Damn.
Sorry about the glazed. Okay, thank you, Paul. Next is confirmed next meeting, Tuesday, March 12th. That's a regular, right? Tuesday, the second, because you remember we're off schedule on a few of these dates.
Because we couldn't get the room.
Yeah, I
I
think we're,
won't be able to make that meeting, but I'll be here in spirit.
do you want us to link you in or whatever we can?
Yeah.
I have to go to the DIF presentation at night at the VFW, sorry. The district incremental financing. It's for Five Corners zoning thing. That's
So
happening
there's two
Saturday.
gone. Yeah, so we're all right. Yeah. Oh, John and Amy photos from Tufts Farm?
Yeah, we went down and took them.
You're gonna hold on to them, or you think it,
Yeah.
Actually, I was gonna try to answer a few of them. They were pretty cool. They were. It was a cold,
It was
snow
pretty
on the
neat.
ground, all the angles. It looked,
Inside.
it looked
you
really
have a couple
cool.
little animals peeking out at
I
you?
thought the inside actually was really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it is,
Yeah,
of
if you have a thumb drive or a CD or something.
Yeah.
I'm just letting. And
Yeah,
did
and
you
I'm
have
gonna make an extra one because the gentleman at Tufts Farm also was curious.
Did you have a chance to do any rough measurements of the building?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Yeah, if
which
you
I
write
on
that
my
down.
way
It's
here.
not
I
our
was
first.
like, oh,
It's not our first rodeo, Wayne. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
You rode the horses? Oh,
So the goats, they're big goats.
Thank you guys for doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not a
appreciate it.
problem.
Yeah,
Really
it
appreciate
was
it.
fun.
Anything else? Anybody? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Yay.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.